Yes, now let's get the show on the road. Nigeria ranked 127th out of 137 countries surveyed in terms of road network quality in the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Report for 2017-2018. In addition to a marked absence of lane markings, signposts, and traffic lights on most roads, the condition of the majority of roads is deplorable. Although Nigeria has the largest road network in West Africa and the second largest south of the Sahara with roughly 108,800 kilometers of surface as at 1990, according to the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission NIPC, only 14.9% is currently paved or tarred, and even this percentage contains numerous potholes and completely failed portions. Wow. That is not a good report. We have the largest network of roads in West Africa.
But only 14% of it is...
What is the condition
of
these roads?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk about this, and we're also going to toss in the announcement last week that tolls are going to be reintroduced into our roads in Nigeria. To help us look at this question of the condition of our roads, even though we have a large network, we have the Executive Secretary, Transportation Growth Initiative, Dr. Ayodeji Omidiji, who is joining us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Yes. Doctor, you heard those stats that I just reeled out. Yes, we do have a large network of roads, but what is the condition of those roads? That seems to be the issue in question. What do you have to say about the condition of our roads? Lack of traffic lights, potholes everywhere?
Those are some of the conditions that we find ourselves for now. But let me quickly buttress what you have just identified or said about the situation of the largeness of roads in Nigeria. Way back in 75, maybe the third National Development Plan and the fourth National Development Plan, respectively, we've had close to 73% of the total budget of transportation system to have taken care of road. That is, 30% or less is left for other systems. So, to buttress what you have just said, yes, the road system are large in Nigeria, we have it, but the condition is still very, very uncomfortable. Well, what I will say, because as government go and government come, we keep having the maintenance situation on those roads. We should give kudos to this present administration in a way that they have also followed the trend of trying to allocate or create funds for the road systems. But just like I said, and just like you have also identified, the road systems are large all over the country. But we also need to identify that we have state roads, we have local government roads, and we have federal roads. So if we're able to have a clear-cut situation on this particular matter, and then the federal government should focus mainly on the roads and maintain them properly, I think the situation can be improved upon as we are currently. However, like I said, the situation of the roads are still not comfortable with the potholes, the insufficient road markings, the lights are not working at times. We're all aware of all that. So that is where we are at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Omidiji. We've since been joined by Mr. Kayode Okpeifa, who is the Secretary for Transportation, former Secretary for Transportation, FCT. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
The reports that we were talking about earlier about the ranking, the latest ranking of Nigeria as regards road infrastructure, 127 out of 137. And of that 127, Nigeria is said to have 108,800 kilometers of road network, but only 14% is tarred or even accessible. What does that say of us?
Good morning. I think it depends on the countries on the ranking at the same time. But regardless of the countries, it's still not good to be 120 whatever out of 130. I think we should be among the first 10, considering that we are the biggest economy in Africa. We are the largest black country in the world. And in terms of human capacity all over the world, Nigeria will also rank high, considering the number of Nigerians working in different parts of the world and doing well. Be that as it may, coming down to the real issue, the state of our roads, like Comrade Omidiji said on the other line, it's not quite good enough. And there are reasons that we can adduce to it. For too long a time, we have stayed under the wrong kind of government. That is the military government. And Nigerians are generally suppressed to think of otherwise in terms of agitation or demands for better living. When prior to the military coming in, when you have the 3 regions and the rest, you see a lot of improvement in terms of infrastructure. Suddenly, we had this long stretch of military governments. They built a lot of roads. In fact, if you look at Lagos, you see all these roads network during the Gowon administration. But that was at the center, and mainly on the major highways. The rural part of Nigeria, the other part of the countries were left. We were only connecting states and building interstate road, but we'll give it to them. Now, at the advent of the civilian, democratic government, the Shagari government, you now see Nigerians agitating for things, and unfortunately that was truncated. But can we still complain? No. The last 20 years or so, we've seen a democratic government. There have been a lot of road construction. But the issue is, are they well constructed?
No, Mr. Kwefa, let me interrupt there and ask the question. Is it a lot of road constructions or a lot of road contracts? Many of them not executed.
Sorry, you know why I decided to go the route I went? It's just for Nigerians to understand that it could be, there were times of good, bad, and ugly. And just let me land now. Okay. That will answer the question. There were a lot of road construction at the local government level, at the state level, and at the federal level. For those of us who are in the transportation sector, those are not the kind of roads we were looking for. That's what I want. So you see the kind of bridges you have in Lagos, the kind of roads built during the Awolowo and the rest. They are not the kind of roads you later see. We now build roads without drainages. We now build roads without the necessary infrastructure, furnitures, like you mentioned, the traffic lights, the lane markings, and the rest. And our eyes became open that we need roads, we need connectivity. Transportation costs must be curtailed. And that was when we started agitating for more. But for too long, there were deficits. So when we now rose up to take care of all the local areas, the state roads, and the rest, the cost had gone up. And the cost of building these roads had become a major part of our budget. And there are also agitations for health, education, tourism, so many other things came up. So the amount that goes to roads now reduced. As other competing, people are saying 13% to education. Nobody is telling you 1% to roads or 10% to roads. So the issue now comes, how do you finance roads? So those are the things we need to address. How do we finance road construction? Because road construction is physical, it's capital, it's not recurrent. And the recurring part of it may even be more than the cost of building it.
Mr. Pfeiffer, I beg to interject right here because you said, how do we construct roads? How do we finance road construction? Many years ago, federal roads were tolled, and it didn't lead to improvement in the quality of our roads. So what are we talking about? If we had seen a marked improvement in the quality of roads, then your argument would be tenable.
No, I'm not a supporter of tolling. Let me just say it on a personal note. My concern is government should give me what I deserve. But why I mentioned
After paying my taxes.
no, you see, the way they finance roads all over the world are basically you can finance it by road taxes. When you pay for your vehicle license, you're already paying road taxes.
Exactly.
When you get your driver license, you are paying road taxes. When you pay your roadworthiness certification, you pay road taxes. You can also finance it through your fuel taxes.
So where's all that
So
money
you can also
going?
finance it through bonds. You can finance through your budget. You can finance through tolling. So I'm not talking about tolling. These are just models. So I think that's not the issue. The issue is a government should decide if you need to have roads, you need to finance the road. But the cost of building roads is huge, and they must be done properly. There must be drainage. Most of the roads that are going bad now is because they don't have drainage, and sometimes in an attempt to build the roads cheap or to be able to build so many kilometers, you compromise on some quantity. And you must give credit to the current government, and especially the Lagos state government started this during Ashwaju and Fashola era. Where you look at Kudirat Abiola Road, it's been there for. So go and look at Bodilon Road. Go and look at roads built in during the Fashola.
Mr. Pfeiffer,
They come with drainage. So go and look at the roads going on in the east.
Can you
now.
just hold your thoughts for a moment? We need to go on a quick break. I'll come back to continue the conversation. Please, join us again. This is Sunrise, and we're still talking about the state of the roads in the country. State, federal, and local government roads. What do we do? How do we fund them? And then get our roads to where we should be. We've been joined by Biodun Showme, a social commentator. Thank you for joining us.
I'm pleased to be here.
So real quick, before you came in, the conversation had started, and we're looking at the state of the roads, Nigeria's position in terms of global ranking. But our roads as they are I'm sorry to use a word, a mess. What do we do? How do we get out of this? Because as I asked Mr. Okpeifa, we've been hearing of road contracts. Almost every other Federal Executive Council meeting that ends, road contracts are awarded for decades, from the military to the civilian road.
Yeah, it's quite clear that the major problem that we have currently is what we call federal roads, state roads, local government roads. In my view, I don't even think the federal government has any responsibility for road construction within Lagos, for instance. Because the bottom line is you cannot warehouse resources to the center. The federal government collects 52.68% of federal allocation, where a state without oil derivation only collects 0.78%. And then you warehouse the resources to the center, and you want to reconstruct all roads from the center. I think it's actually a testimony for the need to restructure this country in a way that you have devolved powers, to the states or regions, whatever we want to call it. But on the issue of road construction, the fact of the matter is you cannot construct roads using only resources from the center. If you look at the concept of vehicle license or road tax or whatever we call it, it's a recognition of the need that road users also need to contribute towards maintaining those roads. But then before you maintain the roads, you need to repair them. You need to construct good roads. You cannot just toll roads both ends, because people are using it. It's quite unfair. When you toll roads from one end, it should be one single payment until you complete that journey. Just go to Ghana. We don't need to go to UK and look at M1 and M6, where alternative routes must always be provided, so that the road tax is not, or toll gate will not be seen as a tax generating revenue for government, rather money meant for roads. You must provide alternative routes. If you look at the case of M1, M6, if you're going to Manchester, you can go through the M6 and pay toll to avoid Birmingham, which is faster, or you go through the alternative routes, solid road also, which will take you through Birmingham, again to the same Manchester without paying toll. So the ball is in your court. Go to Accra, go and look at the stretch of road, from Accra to Bekwai, even up to the border with Cote d'Ivoire. From Accra to Kumasi to Bekwai is about 4.5 hours drive. Only 2 toll gates on that road. Solid road, no single pothole, no waste bins, waste by the side of the road. And perfectly working fine. You get to the toll, you go through. They have their own system to cater for people who are not captured, for instance, road transport users who are not captured, by the banking system. So therefore, we can even look at Ghana. Just Accra to Kumasi or to Bekwai but you only find 2 toll gates on that road. You do not pay at one end and then go and pay at the other end. Don't also forget, we have a major problem down south here. New communities have sprung up, along Lagos to Shagamu Expressway. So where are you going to place them? They need to go to work. They need to move goods to the farm. Are you going to toll them in the middle, at the beginning, so that people pay tax, toll gates, when they are going home or coming back? But many Nigerians will not care, because if you look at the cost of repairing cars in the country today, go all over Lagos, look at the potholes. You will see that the cost of repairing cars outweigh the toll that we need to pay. But what people would like to see is that construct the roads solid, then toll it so that you can maintain those roads. I think those are the major issue.
Well, Mr. Shomi, I would bring to you the same question that I took to Mr. Kwefa earlier. We've had tolling before. Were the roads in any better shape? I'm talking about those tolled roads. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, was it any better when it was tolled?
No, actually.
All the way to Benin, to the east.
Actually, it became a cesspool of corruption, of theft of public funds.
Why are we going back there?
So, Mr. The question, before you go there, Mr. Kwela, so the question shouldn't the question now be consequence management?
No, so I want to thank Mr. Shomi for getting into the basics of all these issues. Let me say this. It is not bad to toll. What are you tolling for? 1. 2, what are you using the money you collected from the toll for? It is always defined. In 2000, when was it 2016, Donald Trump came in, there was a ballot on the Illinois ballot. They call it the transportation tax. What should it be used for? And the people of Illinois were asked to decide, should a penny from that fund be used for anything else apart from transport? When they say transportation tax, it's what we call the fuel tax, the vehicle tax, the road taxes. Now, all over the world, you collect this money, either to build or to maintain or to sustain. Now, the reason is you will pay more if you don't pay those taxes for yourself. You spend more to maintain your car and for your transportation cost. So the issue for us is, that is why they are saying it has to be electronic. So we need to devoid the system where if you toll, the money, the whole process will be transparent, accountable, and you have to legislate what the funds will be used for. You don't just say you toll, collect the money and give it to them. No, it has to be legislated. There must be a law that says this is toll fund. It can be used only for 1, 2, 3, under 4, 5, 6 circumstances. And if you go and check the Ghana, the British one, these are the things they have done. So it is not the tolling that is the issue about us. It is the fact, like you said, for previously we have told, we have not seen anything. So does it mean this current system too will be the same. I believe that's why I went to the history. We have learned our lessons. We are now democratic. We are now in a social media environment. Systems are now open. More NGOs had come up to scrutinize the system. So what we demand, give us the good road first.
Yes.
Give me an alternative. Give me a model that will make it transparent. Let me be sure that by paying this toll, I won't need to maintain my car for a bad road. And I think Nigerians...
But there's also another major problem. It's just the kind of country we are in. All you need to do is go on any road leading, international routes in Nigeria. Let me give you a good example. Songwater, up to Idiroko, a federal road, international route, no single drainage. And in the raining season, it's a hell if you go to Aton or Owode, where you have, the low parts of it. And then it's always flooded, the roads are bad, and then it creates so many problems. Don't forget that these are rural areas. They need to evacuate goods, to the city. So we need, actually, to even pass a law, that you cannot construct roads without drainage.
The drainage is the
in
first
Nigeria.
thing to do.
We should criminalize it. That no government should construct roads without drainage. Also, at the same time, there must be penalty for those who would empty their waste into those drainages.
And to add to that, Mr. Shomi, you should not construct roads without traffic without traffic lights and without street
With
lights.
all the necessary
All the necessary infrastructure for
the thing
roads
is,
infrastructure.
Nigeria's soil
This is the
system,
21st century.
Nigeria's soil system is such that too much water on it will, especially in most part of Nigeria, by the time there's too much water passing through, erosion takes place and the roads begin to fall apart. So those things need to be
If you
looked
travel
at.
from Lagos, for example, to the east, the farthest of the east you can go, you will notice that the new rehabilitations is now putting drainages.
Okay.
That has been realized. I've been to many workshops on the road sector reform in Nigeria since this government came in, and that's a major issue they're facing now. If you look at Lagos too, Lagos has also had a permanent position that no road in Lagos will be constructed without it. If you travel around this one, when you see those roads all over the country, take the bad portions. It's always the valley plain, and you'll see that it is caused by water. And then, in addition to all those issues of traffic light, street light, it is all functions of cost. We want to be 20 kilometers instead of focusing on the 10 kilometers that we have, all the complements. So sometimes it is not as if they don't want to put those things. It has to do with the cost and what do you get out of the cost. And I think we need to understand that.
Okay. Dr. Omididi, let me bring this back to you. The question of legislating what is done with our roads, legislating road construction in Nigeria. I chipped in a question which the two gentlemen here did not even weigh into, the question of consequence management for those who have, in one way or the other, gone contrary to what is needed, building the roads that Nigerians require. Is it possible to bring that in as we begin to look towards getting our roads right?
Yes, absolutely. I also, from TGI angle of, that's from the Transportation Growth Initiative angle of it, which we have always been debating upon. Someone just made a point who just came in, talking about what is happening in M25, the UK, and Okwefa also mentioned the US on the road situation and transportation generally. For us, and for me personally, I have seen a document, and I think that document is even available everywhere, by the World Bank, when they recommended the fact that toll gate should be reintroduced or reactivated in Nigeria. That is a welcome idea for us for now. That is where we should focus very strongly upon, because we are moving, and the whole world is moving again into smart cities. For our federal roads, we also should try as much as possible, do a re-evaluation, so to say, and bring up those drainages that are supposed to be there. And again, on the urban roads, that's within the cities, which of course, we also need to start looking at all other areas in terms of the non-motorized road system, non-motorized systems that are going to be introduced, And of course, at the end of the day, introduce lanes in adjacent to those road constructions that are being provided within the urban cities, so that people can appreciate what is being provided within the cities as road for them to use. These roads are provided for people and not people for the road. So at the end of the day, we can now be talking of trying to legislate. And when we talk about that, of course, we should also think and put in place properly a very strong legislative framework to actually talk about the road system on its own. When these funds are being collected, of course, it has to be fully automated. We need to know where those funds are going into, and they now have to be used for the proper maintenance of those roads. Roads, for example, when they start, it starts with a little bit of pothole. And that pothole degenerated to what we just saw in Lagos State, for example. It was never people going to break the road. It was a pothole that started. And at the end of the day, because we all know that when rains come, the roads begin to grade off because of the rains, and gradually it degenerates into what we saw about Lagos. So we need that very strong legislative backing to bring up the road system, maybe, for example, tolling them, and then have what we may call a road fund maintenance system that will be maybe privately motivated. Because the last situation we saw about tolling the system, we could also see that it was government first. They later gave it to the private people, and the private people were just milking government. I was deeply involved in a road count between Lagos and Ibadan. Way back in my university days, we did a comprehensive road count, and we discovered that all the tolls that were being collected at night were going to different pulses. And that was one of the studies I found myself doing very well. And there are other studies that, could be activated to actually monitor what is being collected and where those funds are going into. Just like Okweva said, there are a lot of NGOs now that they are ready to monitor what government is doing. And this is one area we need to focus very strongly about, because social amenities being provided and they are not being used very well by people. People are crying every day to mechanic. People are crying every day the roads are bad. People are not enjoying what government is supposed to provide for them as amenities. So, and it is, of course, very cost demanding, but we need to do what others are doing in terms of the best practice all over the world.
However, there's this thing. Nigerians pay roadworthiness. They pay for roadworthiness. They also pay road taxes from time immemorial, sometimes unknowingly, as you said, licensing and all of that. What should we do? Yes, apart from being transparent, but these things have gone on for a while. So let's talk solutions.
Okay. Number one, there must be clear-cut understanding what a road should be. To get what it should be, go to Abuja, Federal Capital Territory. You will see what a road should be. You won't see roads in FCT without drainage. You won't see roads, when they construct one, I'm not saying the whole city or the whole FCT has roads, but wherever one is done, they are done well. Number two, the people who design roads must be multi-sectoral. Not just engineers in the Ministry of Works as we are, the guys in the Ministry of Transportation, the guys in the Ministry of Environment. Everybody must sign off before a road is constructed to make it well done. Now, if you now want to fund the road, you fund through all these road taxes. There are laws on road taxes in Nigeria. But are the taxes enough? If they are not enough, let it be adequately spelled out in the law what the taxes will be. Then the law there must now be a legislation that says what those money are used for. I'll give you an example. You have the Motor Vehicle Administration law in Lagos that says every money collected, there is a 50% of that money after a cost that goes into the transport fund in Lagos. It is this transport fund that the Lamata uses for the BRT corridors and the rest. There has to be such laws in every state of this country that when you collect money meant for road taxes, the money must not be spent for hospital or for education. it must be spent for roads. So when we now want to introduce toll or whatever forms, or want to increase, so these are things you need to do for citizens to be confident, to trust you, that the money will be accounted for and will be used for, because the implication is this. That's what you call the transport cost. The cost of my buying fuel will increase if the roads are bad. The cost of maintaining my car, my tire got busted, I think, 4 days ago on the bridge. And that's a tire bought not more than 6 months. And I know why. I know I passed through some funny roads. Then the cost of maintaining your car again. Then the cost of, if you take public transport, the transporter will charge you more because the road is bad. So it is better for me and for the government to give me an appropriate that I'm able to pay, and I have the capacity to pay, and a tax on those things that I don't even notice. You know, you don't know when you pay your driver license. If it changes to 10,000 naira today from 3,000, you won't even budge. But all you need to do is, all the government needs to do for me, so make sure that money is going to be used to fix what it is meant for.
What about diversifying the transport system in the country? Would that help in any way?
Yes,
Will
it
reduce
will
the
help.
weight on the roads?
Yes, it will help. The major problem that we have is not actually the fact that we are trucking goods, on the roads. Is the standard of the roads that we build in Nigeria. Let me give you a good example. When the West African Highway were to be constructed, Ghana, they've done their home part. Very solid road. I've gone to Ghana by road several times. Go to Benin Republic. Very solid road. They build roads to last for 50 years. When we built the road in Nigeria, the Badagry-Seme road, they were only built to last for 25 years. And that is why you see the state of those roads in that shape. Meanwhile, the money was funded, it was the whole West African Highway was funded by African Development Bank, who is the majority shareholder in ADB, Nigeria. Now, we find ourselves building substandard road, using our own resources, and other people took the same resources and built very solid roads. I mean, look, it baffles me why we cannot construct solid roads and why some people are signing off on it. Then you have another problem also.
This is
we have
where
privatized.
We have to leave it for this morning. I'm afraid we've completely run out of time, Mr. Shomi. And I'm sure that this discussion could go on and on because it concerns everybody in this country. But I just want to thank you all for coming to share your thoughts with us this morning. Mr. Biodun Shomi is a social commentator. Mr. Kayode Okwefa is the former Secretary, Abuja Transportation. And Dr. Ayodeji Omidiji, Executive Secretary, Transportation Growth Initiative. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming to join us this morning.